Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. We have some very did I say very? I mean very interesting news to get to today. So let's just jump right into it. First up, we got a new official trailer for Rebel Moon. This is the Zack Snyder, not Star Wars movie. I think it looks okay. I don't know. It's not like blowing me away. I'm not like super duper hyped for it, but I'm going to give it a watch whenever it comes out. They provided some more context on the plot. Basically, our protagonist here is like she used to be a part of the Empire. By the way, I'm going to be talking about Rebels and the Empire. I don't remember what the factions are actually called in Rebel Moon. They're probably different, but she used to be like a part of the Empire, and then she like defected from it and is like hiding out in a village. And then I guess the Empire is looking for her, so they attack the village, and she has to like train the village to fight against the Empire. But that also seems like only the first act of the movie, because then the trailer switches to like her making like a team. She's like creating a team to go in and maybe destroy the Death Star. I don't know if that's it either. It would be so hilarious if there's just a Death Star in the movie. So yeah, basically it seems like the first sort of bit of the movie is going to be her trying to save her village, and then the second half of it is her creating a team to fight the Empire or something. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I hope it's good, but I don't know that I necessarily have the utmost of faith in this. But we'll see. Next up, we had a Madam Web trailer. So this is in the Sony Spider-Man universe, right along there with Venom and Morbius and Kraven. This has not been a successful universe for me. I haven't liked any of the movies that they've put out. This doesn't look like it's gonna be much better. I mean, I guess it does look better than Morbius and Venom, but, like, not by much. So it seems like Madam Web, this is a character that I'm not very familiar with. I only vaguely remember her from Spider-Man the Animated Series. She's like a clairvoyant to where she can see the future. So there are, like, moments in the trailer where she'll know that things are going to happen because she can kind of, like, see into the future and see that it's happening. Weird stuff like that, which could be cool, but they just it doesn't. It looks just very generic in the movie. I will say, I guess, to give some positive notes, there are actually spider people in the movie. Like it seems like she's going to be hanging out with 3 characters that are 3 different spider women. Like they all in the trailer, they all end up dressing up in spider suits, but it's also just kind of confusing because there's a villain in the movie that has seemingly traveled back in time from the future, because he talks about how these girls, right, the 3 girls that Madam Web is with, he's like, you don't know what they're going to turn into. So he seems to know that they're going to turn into Spider Women in the future. So I guess he came back in time and he's trying to kill them. I don't know. It kind of feels like Terminator 2 in a bit. In that it's a guy that comes to the future to kill teenagers before they turn into something as adults. So it's kind of interesting in that way. I don't know. You know, you have Sydney Sweeney and 2 other girls dressing up in Spider-Woman costumes, and Dakota Johnson is hot. So I might have an okay time watching the movie. But beyond that, it looks better than Morbius and Venom, but not by much. And oh boy, does it look like this movie is gonna bomb. Like this is gonna be worse. This could be worse than Blue Beetle. I'm not gonna lie, because there's just like there seems to be 0 hype surrounding this movie. I like and I don't mean to get like too overly dramatic, but it's like where we are at with comic book movies and sort of fatigue starting to set in. This is a movie where this could severely damage the comic book movie genre. I mean, it really could. Like we're at the point now where every bad superhero movie that comes out is going to fatally wound the entire genre as a whole. I mean, I do have to comment on it from that perspective, where it's like, dude, we can't keep on putting out movies like this. What are we doing? But anyways, we'll see. Maybe it's great. I hope it's great. You know, there were some there were some cool shots in it. Like there's a scene where because by the way, the bad guy in the movie is also a spider person. So there's like a scene where he like throws Madam Web across the room and he like jumps up onto the ceiling and the camera like flips along with him. And that was kind of cool. But then there's also just like one of the worst lines of dialogue I've seen in a while, where it's like Madam Web is like, I recognize this guy. He used to work with my mother while she was studying spiders. I mentioned spiders, guys, because this is a Spider-Man movie. It's just like, oh my god. It's like, bro, these Sony movies are so bad. It's like in the Kraven trailer when he was like, I got bitten by a radioactive lion. It's just like, what's happening? Anyways, I don't know. Who cares? It looks bad. We'll see. All right, I also have a trailer for Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I think that this show, unfortunately, looks kind of mid. It unfortunately looks like a Disney Plus show. I think we all know what I mean when I say that. But I'm not entirely losing hope, right? Just because, you know, the effects don't look great, you know, they're very clearly standing on the volume in a lot of points in this trailer. We really just have to wait. I just have to wait and see the first episode of this before I can make like a definitive judgment. Like I have to see what the chemistry is like between the trio, right? Between Percy, Annabeth, and Grover. Like that is what is going to make or break this series. So I hope that part of it is great. I genuinely hope that. And yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I just visually speaking, it doesn't look especially good. So yeah. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see. All right, next up, we have a trailer for What If Season 2. This also looks fine. You know, the first season of What If wasn't my favorite. My main problem with it was that most of the episodes just felt very underbaked because they were only 22-minute episodes, and it just felt like the writers weren't writing stories conducive to that runtime. It's like the only like great episode was the Doctor Strange one, where it felt like the writers were like, okay, we have 22 minutes, let's tell a meaningful story in 22 minutes. And the other one I didn't mind was the it was like the one where Hank Pym killed the Avengers. That one was pretty cool. But yeah, there were also like, you had like the Captain Carter one, where they were like, hey, what if we took Captain America the First Avenger and just condensed it down to 22 minutes? That'll be cool. No, it's not cool, actually. It's actually kind of bad. So, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully this is good. Also, you know, we after watching like the first season, we were like, oh yeah, this is totally going to tie into the rest of the MCU. It's not. It didn't, or I should say. So I'm not. We really shouldn't be going into this expecting that. Like, we really should just be going into it expecting it to be the Star Wars visions of the MCU. So, yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it's better than the first season. All right, let's get into the first story of the day. Kang Dynasty. Well, it's I don't think this movie's happening anymore. So this comes from Deadline. Deadline hears that filmmaker Destin Daniel Cretton has decided to step away as director of Marvel Studios' Avengers Kang Dynasty. Cretton is currently busy on the Marvel Studios / Disney Plus series Wonder Man. Cretton, what? Oh, sorry. It says credit EPs the series, that stands for executive produces the series, and also directed the first 2 episodes. The series resumes shooting after Thanksgiving. Wonder Man will be under the new Marvel Spotlight series banner. The filmmaker is also currently working on the sequel to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So, yeah, the director of Avengers: The Kang Dynasty is leaving the project to focus on Wonder Man and the Shang-Chi sequel. And so the other reason why why I don't think this is happening anymore, or this movie just isn't happening, is because there was another report that the writer for Avengers: The Kang Dynasty is leaving. I didn't include it in this because it doesn't necessarily come from like a website like Deadline or anything like that. So I just figured, I'm not going to write up a whole thing about it. I'll just mention it here. So because there's that report of the writer leaving and Destin Daniel Cretton leaving, my guess is that this movie just isn't going to happen anymore. And then on top of that, you have the Jonathan Majors shenanigans happening, and then Kang just not being introduced effectively in the MCU overall. Just all of that wrapped together. My guess is that they're going to move away from Kang. And I think that the director leaving, it just like adds to that theory. So, I mean, it's good that he's still sticking with Marvel. You know, he's working on Wonder Man, which I also kind of thought was probably going to get canceled just because we heard that Marvel was going to, reconfigure their whole thing. But they're also saying that, it also said there that it's going to be a part of the Marvel Spotlight banner, which is kind of interesting. So it seems like Wonder Man isn't going to connect to the wider MCU. And they also say that he's now working on Shang-Chi 2, which is honestly a movie that I feel like they should have just gotten off the ground by now. Like, it's really weird because at the end of that movie, they were like, hey guys, Shang-Chi's going to go hang out with Carol Danvers and Mark Ruffalo, and who else was it? Was Rhodey a part of that post-credit scene? And then they have literally not followed up on that promise since, and it's really weird. So that's cool. I like the first Shang-Chi. Not my favorite Marvel movie, but I enjoyed it for what it was. So I don't know that I was ever too eager for that director to make an Avengers film anyways. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. All right, next up. Speaking of directors that are not going to be directing Marvel movies anymore, Taika Waititi has confirmed that he will not be coming back for Thor 5. It's coming from Variety or The Hollywood Reporter. My apologies. A 5th film hasn't been confirmed by the studio, but rumors have made their rounds on social media in recent months. The director recently told Business Insider that he wouldn't know if that's accurate, but he knows that I won't be involved. I'd still get back in bed with them one day. So Taika Waititi is saying that he doesn't know if there's going to be another Thor 5, but he knows that he's not going to be involved with it. But he does clarify that he would still make another Marvel movie one day. So maybe Taika comes back and does a Squirrel Girl movie. You don't know that. He very well could do that. This isn't too surprising to me. After the reception of Thor: Love and Thunder, you can definitely see why Kevin Feige wouldn't necessarily want him to come back for Thor, and you could definitely understand why he personally wouldn't want to come back to Thor. I don't know. After something like that, I feel like it's probably good for a director to just step away for a bit and sort of do other projects and rejuvenate yourself, and then maybe come back and do another hero. I will say I do think it's kind of shitty how everybody just turned on Taika Waititi after one movie. It's like he directed What We Do in the Shadows, which is beloved. He directed Jojo Rabbit, which is beloved. He directed Thor Ragnarok, which you guys can't gaslight me. I know how much you guys love that movie. And then it's like all of a sudden with Thor: Love and Thunder, it's like humor in the MCU is bad, and it's like, I don't know. It's I guess it's weird for me because I didn't like Thor Ragnarok because I thought it was too funny, and the emotional beats didn't really work out. And so I watched Thor Love and Thunder, and I actually thought Thor Love and Thunder handled the humor versus the seriousness like a lot more effectively. Like none of the emotional beats in Thor Ragnarok really worked for me, but I actually did think that Thor and Jane's relationship worked for me in Thor Ragnarok. Like those moments were genuinely kind of emotional. And it's like easily the best the best Thor movie in terms of the Thor and Jane dynamic. So I don't know, like I find it very odd the people that are like Thor Ragnarok, hell yeah. Thor Love and Thunder, to way too much humor. It's like, okay, like that's weird to me. But then even beyond that, the fact that after just one movie, there's just such an insane backlash against Taika, I don't know. That's very strange to me. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see if he ever comes back. All right, next up, it looks like the Authority is going to be in Superman Legacy, and it also looks like they might be like the primary antagonists. And this all comes from a confirmation that the Engineer, one of the characters in the Authority, is in fact going to be in Superman Legacy. So let's read over here on Deadline. Maria Gabriela de Faria has landed a breakout part on the film side, joining the cast of James Gunn's Superman Legacy. Her character is Angela Spica, I don't know, aka the Engineer. And it says that the Engineer is part of the Warner/DC Flicks villain team. So, the article is confirming that this lady here is going to be playing the Engineer. And it is also confirming that the Engineer is going to be a part of a villain team within Superman Legacy. And what would that villain team be if not the Authority? So I have no idea. I don't know anything about this character, but apparently she is the Silver Lady on the right-hand side of this picture. I think it's an interesting costume design. I'm very curious to see how that will look on the screen. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's interesting how the costume designers are going to manage to do that. You know what I'm saying? No, but on a serious note, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know anything about the Authority or the Engineer specifically. But what I do know is that the Authority is going to be a movie in the DCU. So yeah, I think it's very interesting that what is apparently going to be antagonists in Superman Legacy are then going to spin off into their own movie. And I think it's also because I guess one of the things that I do know about the Authority is that they're not necessarily villains, more so that they're like anti-heroes. Like they're kind of heroes with the code of the Punisher, where they're okay with doing morally dubious things for the greater good. I guess also maybe like Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. But it also does bring up the whole thing of like too many characters that worry that people have, because as of right now, Superman Legacy has like Superman and Lois Lane and potentially Jimmy Olsen and Lex Luthor. And then we also have like Hawkman and Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, and is it like Metamorpho, I think is one of the characters that's going to be in this. And now potentially the Authority, like, and the entire team of the Authority. So, there is the worry out there that there are just going to be too many characters in this movie. Now, in my humble opinion, I'm not necessarily going to be, I don't think that that's like a surefire worry that we should have, because, I think people get a little confused when they look at why movies are bad. Like, I don't think that movies like, like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3 or Batman v Superman are like bad because there are too many characters. and that, oh no, they're not giving this solo Superman movie, because there are too many characters. That's why they got this movie wrong. It's like, I don't think that that's ever going to really be the reason necessarily, because you can have a whole bunch of characters. It's just a matter of how well you execute the story. I think Captain America Civil War is a really good example of that. There are a bunch of characters in that movie, but it's still Captain America's movie, right? The movie is still primarily about Captain America wanting to save Bucky and how that conflicts with his role as Captain America and the duties that he has to serve his country and yada, yada, yada. So you can have all of these characters, but if it all centers around Superman and Superman finding his place in the world, and I guess I'm assuming if he's going to be fighting the Authority, he's going to be like solidifying how he handles his superheroism and all of that. Like, as long as that is the focus of the movie, I'm not going to worry too much about there being too many characters, because like these are all characters that could like characters like Hawk Girl and and Green Lantern, like they could be on screen for like 5 seconds for all we know. So we'll see how it all gets handled. All right, next story. Pedro Pascal is in talks to play Mr. Fantastic. This is coming from Deadline. While a deal is far from done, sources tell Deadline that 3-time Emmy nominee Pedro Pascal is in talks to play the leader of the iconic superhero team. As for other members of the team, that can now be worked out, as it was essential to figure out who would be playing Richards before they could go out with offers to others. So yeah, the reaction to this casting is very interesting, because it feels like Pedro Pascal is kind of approaching Chris Pratt territory, to where people are starting to get annoyed that Pedro Pascal is showing up in literally everything. Honestly, I'm not at that point, only because I only get annoyed when an actor shows up in everything if they start phoning in their performances. So like, when you look at Chris Pratt playing Mario, he phoned in that performance. Like, it wasn't like an exceptional performance. When you look at Chris Pratt playing Garfield, you can tell that he's phoning in his performance. And if a role is going to an actor just because they're a popular actor and not because they were the right actor for the job, it's like, yeah, that is when it gets annoying. Pedro Pascal doesn't really phone in his performances, like even in Wonder Woman 84, he was fantastic. In, playing Joel, he's fantastic. There's an argument you could say, you could make about The Mandalorian, but to be fair, like The Mandalorian is very much like a role that there's not a ton to do with that role. And I think, whenever he takes off the mask, like he's good in it. I don't know that he's phoning in his performance in those instances. So I guess what I'm saying is that, like, were Pedro Pascal to get this role of Mr. Fantastic, like, yeah, I don't think that, like, I'm pretty sure he would put his all into the performance. So I guess then the whole thing is, like, is he right for the role? To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know much about Mr. Fantastic. I haven't read any Fantastic Four comics. I've only really ever watched the, like, early or the movies, I guess, right? Was it like the 2005 and the 2008 sequel? I don't know. And then obviously there's the Fantastic movie. So I mean, Pedro Pascal is older. He's in his late 40s. So I guess I would just ask Fantastic Four fans if, like, is that the right age range, or is he a little too old? Because he's not just going to be Reed Richards for one movie. Like, presumably Marvel is going to want to use him for like a decade at least. But I mean, and then there's also the whole thing of like, oh, it's a race swap. Just to reiterate my position on that sort of thing, I don't really care about race swapping. As long as the characters, like, core identity doesn't revolve around race, right? So, like, a character like Batman, like if you made a Batman Asian, that would be fine because, you know, none of Batman's like core characteristics of what make Batman Batman have to do with race. Now a character like Atticus Finch, well, yeah, Atticus Finch kind of has to be white because the whole his whiteness actually plays into the story of To Kill a Mockingbird. As far as I understand, I don't think that really applies to Reed Richards because I think Reed Richards is mostly, it's just that he has to be like kind of an asshole and like antisocial. I think that's his main. Those are his main characteristics, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you're Chilean, like Mr. Pascal here. So yeah, and listen, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, are you sick and tired of seeing Pedro Pascal everywhere? Is he not white enough for you? I honestly, like, if the movie is good and he's putting on a fantastic performance, I don't think anybody's gonna care once they're watching the movie. All right, next story. Steven Yeun is confirmed to be playing Sentry, and it has been confirmed by Robert Kirkman. It's coming from CBR. My good friend Steven Yeun is playing the Sentry in a movie, Kirkman said. Yeah, he called me. He went in for a costume fitting. I don't think this is a spoiler or anything that will get anybody in trouble. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. I don't care. I don't work for Marvel. What are they going to do to me? So, first of all, absolute Giga Chad Robert Kirkman telling Kevin Feige that your snipers can't get to me, Kevin. So that's hilarious. But yeah, I guess now Steven Yeun is officially playing Sentry. So this is in that Thunderbolts movie that people have been kind of speculating, and there might have even been some like unconfirmed rumors that he would be playing Sentry, but now it's confirmed. And yeah, this is another one of those stories where I don't know anything about Sentry, so I don't know if Steven Yeun is like good for that role. I guess the only thing I really know about Sentry is that he's supposed to be like an insanely powerful villain, like a villain that's powerful enough to fight the Hulk. So I know one of the things that people have been talking about is that it seems kind of weird that the Thunderbolts would be fighting Sentry because Sentry is like way more powerful than all of the Thunderbolts combined. So people are like speculating that maybe Thunderbolt Ross, who is going to be in the movie, maybe he turns into Red Hulk to fight Sentry or something like that. Or, you know, they could always like depower Sentry maybe for the Thunderbolts to be able to take them on. Or maybe that's part of the movie where like the Thunderbolts are like, how are we going to fight this guy? This seems impossible, right? Like that's like the premise of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, right? The game that Rocksteady is working on, of like, how the hell are the Suicide Squad going to fight the Justice League? So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Robert Kirkman, absolute Giga Chad. Let's get into the next story. The Supergirl screenwriter has been confirmed. So James Gunn confirmed this on Instagram. He says, a hearty public welcome to Anna Nogueira to the DC Studios family. Anna is an amazing writer whose screenplay adaptation of Woman of Tomorrow is above and beyond anything I hoped it would be. We're excited to be moving forward on this unique take on Supergirl in this beautiful star-spanning tale. So, this is interesting because Anna Guerrera, if you look at her IMDb, she's never written a feature film. She only has a short film on her resume. Now, this is one of those things that I just don't really know at the end of the day how the industry works. Like, I've been thinking, and I don't know, where maybe she has actually written plenty of like feature-length screenplays, and they've just never gotten made into movies. I feel like there probably has to be a system in Hollywood where, sure, there's like a screenwriter that doesn't get any of her projects like bought. But, studios are like, hey, keep an eye on that girl, Maria. Am I getting her name wrong? Hold on. Anna Noguera. Sorry, I did get her name wrong. And, like, keep an eye on that Anna Noguera, because her movies, we don't know that we can make her movies profitable, but her scripts are pretty good, so keep an eye on her. So I would imagine that has to be a part of the Hollywood system. So maybe she has just written a bunch of scripts, and James Gunn was like, hey, this girl is talented. Maybe she was like, hey, that's one script that you wrote that didn't get made. That was really good. I want you to give me a script for Supergirl. Again, that is totally possible. The other thing is that, the other thing that makes me like less worried is that the script is finished, right? Like, James Gunn has read it. This isn't news of like, oh yeah, James Gunn is getting some random person who's never written a feature film to write Supergirl. It's already written. He's read it and he likes it. And it actually goes back to what James Gunn said about the DCU that instilled a lot of hope. Was that he said that no movie is ever going to go into production until a script is written. And you would think that would just be just how movies are made. But when you look at a lot of these blockbusters, that's not how a lot of movies are made, right? When you looked at Blade, they were well into pre-production before they had a script. And that's like one of the reasons why they just had to scrap the whole movie. So yeah, like the fact that this lady wrote a script, James Gunn read it, he was like, hey, this is good, now let's move forward with the movie. So that's why it's like, yeah, I guess it is a little worrying that this person has never written a script before, but James Gunn likes the script, so we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, the other thing to mention there is that he kind of reaffirms that this Supergirl movie is going to be like a space opera where she's going to be traveling through space. So yeah, I guess like it's one of those things where I guess I would be like a little worried. It's like, oh, is this Supergirl movie just going to feel like another Superman movie? But it seems like that they're probably going to alleviate that by her being in space, whereas Superman Legacy is going to be on Earth. So we'll see how it is. I'm definitely interested. Like, honestly, just the image that he always uses is just like intriguing to me. Like her sitting on like a weird alien planet, all bloody with a sword. It's like, that just looks cool. I'm like, I'm intrigued. Like, what's this movie going to be about? But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. All right, last story of the day. Bit of a bummer for a lot of people out there. The Knights of the Old Republic remake has seemingly been officially canceled. So it's coming from The Gamer. And this is a quote by Jeff Grubb. I just want to clear it up. This game is not being worked on right now, says Grubb, as spotted by Insider Gaming. Just full stop. This game is not being worked on in any way at any studio. I don't think this is news to most of you. Sony stepping away and scrubbing mentions of Knights of the Old Republic from social media and YouTube. You can put 2 and 2 together there, but just to 100% confirm it, this game is not being worked on right now. So this is pretty wacky and wild. Yeah. So Jeff Grubb, he's like an insider guy who gets some scoops sometimes. So I don't know that, I'm not as in tune with the video game industry, but I don't know that he's always 100% correct on all of his scoops. But I guess what made me want to report on this is that this isn't Jeff Grubb saying, I have some insiders that are telling me. It's like he's saying, no, I know 100% nobody's working on this game. And this game has just been, it's had a weird development history where the studio that they got to make it was not really an established studio. It's a studio that mainly works on ports, right? Like they work on ports of old Star Wars games that they port to newer consoles. So like they ported the Knights of the Old Republic game to newer consoles. and then they decided to hire them to actually make a remake. And I've been kind of looking forward to it because I've tried playing the original Knights of the Old Republic remake, or I should say the original Knights of the Old Republic game. I remember I tried playing it on like an Android tablet that I had, and I just didn't understand the controls. Straight up. Maybe I was just a dumb kid, but I was like, what is happening right now? How do you even control this? I don't understand how to attack people. I was like, it's just like a really old RPG with like, I want to say archaic controls, but maybe I was just too dumb to understand them. So I would like a remake that is maybe a bit more intuitive, or maybe it just goes and is a bit more of an action, like hack and slash type game. I don't know. But yeah, pretty wild that they would mess this game up because it was being published by Sony as well. I'm like, dude, this is Star Wars. It's Knights of the Old Republic. I would imagine that this isn't going to get canceled forever. Like, surely they'll get somebody to make it? I don't know. This is, as of right now, apparently, nobody's working on it. Okay, my bad. There's actually another story here. Superman. So this is actually clarification on one of the more long-standing rumors regarding a Superman game. So it was always like kind of reported in articles where it was like rumored that before Rocksteady decided to work on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, they had actually like pitched a Superman game to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers rejected it. But apparently that's not true. So this is a funny tweet. Either way, this is a funny tweet where there's a guy posting Suicide Squad gameplay. The person quote tweeted them saying, "It's so funny that you are playing in the ruins of their Superman game." I mean that's a hilarious tweet. But Jason Schreier, who's another video game scooper guy, is saying, "Zero truth to this one. Rocksteady was never working on a Superman game." So, yeah, apparently that long-standing rumor is just not true. It is not true that Rocksteady was working on a Superman game, and then evil corporate WB Interactive was like, no, you have to work on a live service Suicide Squad game. Now, maybe it's true that that Rocksteady was working on another single-player game, and then WB came in and was like, no, you have to work on a live service Suicide Squad game. But whatever game that may have been, it definitely wasn't a Superman game. So yeah, my condolences to all you Superman fans that desperately want a Superman game. You weren't even potentially getting one from Rocksteady. So it is what it is. Well, we'll see how Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League turns out. Can't say I am particularly enthused. Oh, I totally forgot to put in the trailer section that they put out more gameplay and story information about Suicide Squad to Kill the Justice League. They put out like a thing, like a little video. So I guess I'll talk about it here. As of right now, after watching that video, I'm more confident that I am going to enjoy the campaign from like a story perspective and from a characterization perspective. Like there's a sequence in the gameplay demonstration where they show the Suicide Squad sort of breaking into Metropolis, and they sort of pop up inside of the Hall of Justice. And it shows them like robbing a bunch of gadgets from the Justice League. And I'm not gonna lie, like all the character interactions between everybody, it looked fun. Like it was funny. It's like you could see that Rocksteady polish and how good Rocksteady is at bringing comic book characters to life. Like you could feel it. Then it gets out into the gameplay where you're fighting a bunch of aliens outside, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, this doesn't look amazing. but it it doesn't look bad. Where it's like, well, I should say, granted, I'm not like a shooter guy. Like, I don't play a lot of shooters, so I'm not necessarily an expert on how like a third person shooter should feel like. But just looking at that gameplay, I'm not going like, oh my gosh, this looks like so much fun. But it didn't look bad. So at this point, I think that I will be able to play through the campaign of Suicide Squad, and I think I'll be able to have a fun time with it. I think the main problem is that this is a live service game, and WB wants people to play it for like years. I don't know that I'm gonna want to do that, because that was the thing with that Avengers game. It's like I played through the campaign, I had an okay time with it, and then I didn't want to play any more of it, because that's just how I like to play games. Now, and I will say, I do believe that the campaign for Suicide Squad will be better than the campaign for Avengers. Like, just that one scene in the Hall of Justice, I'm like, oh yeah, I like these characters way more than I liked the Avengers. In that game, I should note. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, Suicide Squad is good. All right, let's get into what I've been watching. So I watched Loki season 2. Finally caught up with it. I definitely like season 2 better than season 1. However, I still think that this is a show that is a little overhyped. I can't say I loved it. But I will say, whereas a lot of Disney Plus shows start off really good, and then like the finale ends up being bad, this is like the opposite, where like it was good at the beginning, but the finale is like really solid. I think it's just like a lot of stuff in the middle that I'm like, okay, I don't know that this is all like super well done. Like there's a lot of fluff in the middle. I don't know that I love what was his name? The Kang variant. Not He Who Remains, but Victor Timely. That was his name. I don't know that I loved Jonathan Majors' performance, although I get it. It's like this show is inherently kind of goofy. Like that's just kind of the tone of it. So I kind of got used to it, but at first I wasn't like super in love with his performance. So overall, it's good. I like Loki overall. I just don't think that it's like top tier, Marvel. Like I feel like a lot of people say it is, but it ended strong, and that I think that's important. Like I do really like where Loki's character ended. And yeah, I will also say that as far as the ramifications of it and where Marvel can potentially go, this actually kind of ties back into the Kang Dynasty situation, where if Marvel just wanted to never bring up Kang again, they could do that. Like it's really weird, because there was that Variety article that was talking about how why Marvel fell off. And in that article, there was a quote from a guy that was like, I've seen the finale of Loki season 2, and Marvel really painted themselves into a corner with that one. They can't, they're going to have to use Kang in the future after that Loki finale. No, they don't. They, like I said, they could never address Loki again or Kang again. It would be totally fine. So I just figured I'd point that out as well. All right. I also watched Invincible season 2 episode 3. I have to say, I was a little soft on the first 2 episodes of Invincible. Like they were good, don't get me wrong, but I did think they were a little slow. That's fine. It's like I kind of get it, because they're really letting the characters sit with the aftermath of the season 1 finale, and I appreciate that they like really understand, and they really want you to feel the effects of that. So I'm okay with it, but episode 3 is like the best episode of the season so far. Like just the way that it's written, the way that the that it's like formatted is just really interesting. With the way that it goes from Mark's story to Alan's story, like that's just such a cool that was just such a cool transition. And yeah, like I think overall just Mark and Debbie's character arcs are really fascinating. What happens with Debbie is just so sad and depressing, and just where her character is at in this season. And Mark is still dealing with his guilt and all that. And yeah, what they do with Alan is really cool as well. I like seeing more of him. I like seeing that they're sort of showing like not just the ramifications of how people are dealing with season 8 on Earth, but how word has spread out to the universe and what that means for the universe. That I thought that world building was really interesting. And you obviously have that finale, which is pretty wacky and wild. As somebody who has read the comics, I was like, I wasn't sure if they were if that was gonna happen that soon. Because it's been a while since I read the comics. I'll just say that for sure, like that, what happens at the end of this episode could have been a season finale, I felt like. But now that happened, I'm kind of going like, I think I know what the season finale is going to be, and I won't say anything because, spoilers and all that. And I also have to say, it should just be noted, it feels like they are going like out of their way to make Amber more likable in this season, because she's like super understanding. She's like, don't ever apologize for having to leave to save lives and all of that. So I appreciate that. Like, I think Amber is a lot better this season, and if I remember correctly, from the comics, I think there are going to be things that she does that are going to be like very understandable. And I think her character is gonna get a lot better. Like, again, if they stick to the comics, I don't think there's going to be another situation where she's just like completely unreasonable. Just really great episode, best of the season so far. And I guess I should also say, I'm also really into the Guardians of the Globe. Those are kind of like these like side characters that aren't traditionally like the focus of the show or anything like that. Although Robot was actually really interesting in the last season as well. But in this season, I'm really wanting to see. Although I keep on I feel like I'm talking as if I don't know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen, and it's like, yeah, I want to see them get to everything that's happening with the Guardians of the Globe. So yeah, really great episode. And the last thing I'm going to talk about today, I know that Doom Patrol has ended, but I stopped watching. I don't even remember at what point I stopped watching it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start from the beginning, and I'm just going to sort of watch all of Doom Patrol. So I watched episode 1, and man, this show is good. This show is so good. So if you don't remember, Doom Patrol was one of the like flagship shows on the DC Universe subscription service. It was like Teen Titans, or not Teen Titans. It was Titans, the live action show, and Doom Patrol. And it really sucked because Titans really, I feel like, killed that DC Universe subscription service. Not that a DC Universe subscription service was ever going to be massive anyways. But yeah, Titans came out and it was terrible, and it just completely probably killed most people's interest in a DC Universe streaming service. And then Doom Patrol comes out after Titans, and it's amazing, and it feels like barely anybody watches it. It's now on HBO Max, so I really hope more people check it out. But yeah, I rewatched episode 1, and it's just great. It's so wacky and wild. It kind of feels like something that James Gunn might make, where it's really character focused, where you have these just like outcasts that are, very flawed characters, but you also can't help but empathize with them. It's one of those shows where I talked about it recently with like Gen V, where you can just feel the empathy that and love that the show has for its characters. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to digging back into the show and catching up to the season finale and all of that. And yeah, hopefully I can get that done before the end of the year so that I can properly rank Doom Patrol Season 4 on my comic book movie and show rankings and all of that. So yeah, Doom Patrol. Get into Doom Patrol if you haven't. It's a wonderful show. Brendan Fraser voices the robot character. I don't know if that'll get you to watch it. But yeah, that is going to be it for this episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. Had a lot of interesting stuff to talk about today. Let me know what you think about any and all of the topics that we talked about. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.